Good morning. It is another rainy morning. It's Tuesday today, but here I am on my way to work again. Before we get started, please like and subscribe. Please share my channel. Please comment whether you agree with me or not. I love hearing from you. I love hearing your perspectives. And a lot of times when you comment on something and it's something that I realize that maybe I might have sounded a certain way, or maybe I might not have articulated something well, it does prompt me to want to do another video and maybe clear things up, or maybe talk about a subject that I hadn't thought about before. So I really do appreciate your feedback, because this is a joint effort. So thank you all for being here. You are so appreciated. So I'm just going to get started with what I wanted to talk about today. It's really extending. I just saw 11:11. It's really extending from what I was talking about yesterday. I want to start right off the bat with saying I don't like to get political. I didn't want this channel to ever be a political channel. This is not a place where I rant and rave about my political views, because basically I don't have super strong political views. Do I research the issues? Yes. Do I research the candidates? Yes. Do I decide on who I think is best to vote for? Yes. Do I sometimes get involved in community activities and in changing things within the community? Yes. However, I'm not one of those people who picks a side and then gets on a video and just rants about how my side is right and everybody else is wrong. I just don't do that. So I'm not criticizing anybody who does. There are a lot of political commentaries out there. There are a lot of people who are advocating for the red and the blue and whoever else, a lot of people speaking out about political injustices. And I love those people. I do. I watch some of them. I don't watch them all day, but I do keep in touch. I have a few that I think are very factual. But my channel is not designed to be a political channel. I just want to make sure that I get that across. However, I noticed yesterday, I wanted to talk about the subject of manipulation, and it was really about spiritual manipulation. But you almost can't talk about spiritual manipulation without mentioning psychological manipulation. When it comes to spirituality, yes, there are things that go on in the various realms of this life that we're in. This experience that we're in has what I would refer to as realms. And some things are in the higher realms, some things in the lower realms. But, because we're living this experience, those realms and where we are and how we feel and how we perceive things and how we process and how that affects us and how we absorb it, these things can really be affected by the things that go on in the lower realms, in the earthly, I call it the ant farm. So as things are happening in the ant farm, it can affect our spirituality. And that's really what I wanted to talk about. I don't want to talk about us and them on the ant farm, because here's the thing. Yes, there are such a thing in America as Democrats. Yes, there is such a thing in America as Republicans. We have such a thing in America as MAGA now. It's like a third party. The Republicans have basically been absorbed into MAGA. All the people who were not all, but a lot of the people who were Republicans now have joined up with MAGA, headed by Donald Trump. Some of the Republicans who were GOP Republicans before did not join MAGA, and they're still hanging on by a thread to what's known as the GOP. MAGA accuses the GOP of being fake and wrong and false and evil. And MAGA accuses Democrats of being fake and wrong and evil. So basically the MAGA group is wanting to accuse the other two, the Republicans and the Democrats, of being fake news, fake narrative, not honest. They accuse them of all kinds of things, because MAGA right now is in power, and MAGA wants to keep power. So this is what's going on in the political realm. I mean, let's just face it. This is basically, that was a very way too simplistic explanation of what's happening here in the United States, but that's the way it's happening. So we are led right now by a group called MAGA, and MAGA is, to no surprise for many, MAGA is adopting multi-billionaires and multi-millionaires to lead our country. The people in the cabinet who are being brought into the cabinet of this leadership are going to be multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires. And some people trust that fully and think, oh, that's great. We want them to be in there leading us because they're the really super, super rich people, and they're going to share a piece of their pie with all the rest of us. And some people think, when have they ever shared? No, they're not going to share. And so they're skeptical of, and so now that we have our government in place, we've got, the two types of people in America are basically thinking either they trust this government or they don't trust this government. So that, all of that is just kind of a background, because I'm sorry if I sound like I'm yelling at you. There are a lot of trucks today, and they're loud. They're really, really loud. I'll just let that truck use his jerry brake, and I'll wait. I'll wait. So yeah, we have people who trust and people who mistrust, and it's all based on what's going on in the ant farm. It's based on what's going on in worldly government. And so what I want to make sure that I make clear, and I want to make it very clear, I'm not here to argue over the ant farm, ever. I am never here to debate whether red is better than blue or blue is better than red. If I use an example, it's just an example of something I've seen. I'm not trying to say that one side or one team is any better than the other, ever, because I don't see it that way. I don't see it as red is better than blue or blue is better than red, or red and blue are both evil and we need MAGA. I don't see it that way. Here's how I see it on the ant farm. This is my perception of the ant farm. My perception of the ant farm is that, and I've said this in, I think, several videos before, we're salt and peppered, we're dotted, we're all dotted and speckled. If you go out and you look at the grains of sand, you'll see lots of white sand, you'll see some black speckly sand, you'll see some sparkly sand, you'll see all different kinds of sand. You don't have sand on a beach divided between, oh, here's the sparkly side, and here's the, oh, the sand's kind of black, and oh, here's the light pink colored sand, and here's the white sand, here's the baby powder sand. We don't divide sand on the beach that way. It's all just sand, and it all goes together. And that's how I see people. I see people like grains of sand. I see them as all salt and pepper dotted in. You have some people who are very kind and loving. You have some people who are very evil and greedy. You have some people who are both evil and greedy and kind and loving at the same time, and everything in between. I mean, we don't have one trait. We're not born into this world and given one trait. Okay, this is you, and you are greed. Okay, this is you, and you are love. All right, welcome to the world. You are glutton. And then that's all we are. Welcome to the world. You are compassion. And you can never be anything other than compassion. It doesn't work that way. I wish people could just see that it doesn't work that way. We have all of those traits, every one of them. Serial killers have the ability to be compassionate. If you don't believe that, then notice that Ted Bundy had a wife and he raised a daughter. And he was never, no, I'm not going to say never AB. I'm not going to say they never got into fights or anything. There were arguments and that it was all cushy and plush for her. But the daughter was raised by him, and obviously he was a serial killer. And the daughter's still alive. So figure that one out. He raised her. She survived, and she doesn't see her childhood as something that was terrifying. They weren't necessarily shocked that what they found out he was, but they weren't terrified by him. They weren't harmed by him. So somehow, even somebody like Ted Bundy had it in him to live with a family and with a child in that household and not harm that child physically. So there was some element there had to have been some element there of compassion for that one child. And there must have been some element of love and loyalty toward that one woman, because she's still here. So maybe you might think that's a bad example. People don't like to think that people like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy and Eileen Werros had any kind of a heart at all. But the fact of the matter is, every person, no matter how bad they are, still has a heart in there and still has a soul in there. And they still have the capability, whether they demonstrate it or not, they still have the capability of being compassionate. Every compassionate person who is loving and kind and righteous and solid and who goes to church and does everything they're supposed to do, gives to the poor and loves the needy and does all the biblical, everything the Bible tells them that they're supposed to do as a good human being, a really, really, really good human being, they still have the potential in them to have rage. And they have the potential in them to give in to temptation. They have the potential in them to be evil. The potential is there. I'm not saying they all act on it, but what I'm saying is the potential is there. In every human being, we have duality. We have good, we have evil, and we have everything in between. So we can't look at governments and human beings, and I'm not trying to yell at you here, but we shouldn't look at governments and human beings like y'all go into this category and y'all go into that category based on what you believe or based on what one issue that you find important. And that's what they normally do in politics. Somebody might have 50 issues and agree with you on 47 of them, but 3 of them, they're on the other side. And then you're going to call them pure evil because they don't agree with you on 3 of the issues out of 50. And see, they're not pure evil. They just don't agree with you on certain things. And there's always a reason behind it. There's a reason why they don't agree. Because it's their life experience. Something happened in their life experience. It didn't happen in yours, or vice versa. So not everybody agrees on issues, especially social issues and economic issues. Issues where it comes to world vision and things like that. We all have different journeys and different backgrounds and different experiences, so we're all going to disagree on certain things. It doesn't make somebody good and somebody evil. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that this is a spiritual channel where I'm not trying to convince anybody of a political side, because I don't see political sides. I see human beings. I see the good and the bad in all human beings. We all have it. We all have good and we all have bad in us. Some of us demonstrate more of one than the other, but that's okay. We're all different. And the political parties are nothing more than a tool on this earth to guide us and to see what we're made of. How are we going to behave? This whole world is designed to see how we're going to behave. Let's put up a bunch of political injustice. Let's put up a bunch of injustices and let's see how you act. That's really what this world is, and that's what this world is to me. So when I was talking about manipulation of, and I used an example of, I just came straight out and used an example of some of the things that the Christian nationalists and MAGAs do. The Christian nationalists are not necessarily following Jesus, and I will say that. I'm not saying all Christian nationalists, but as a political party, the ideologies they have and the things that they're wanting to incorporate, some of them are good. Some of them I agree with. Nobody should be put in jail for saying Merry Christmas. Nobody should be not allowed to have a Bible. We should not have Bibles taken away from us. I would hope that this country would never take Bibles away from us. I would hope this country would never, aim toward trying to, migrate towards, forcing everybody to stop believing in Christ. That would be bad. However, we also shouldn't be forced to follow the Old Testament. So, following Christ is a good thing. I follow Christ, and I think following Christ is a good thing. Would I force somebody to do it? No, because it's free will. It's a free choice. And I believe that in this country, we should all have our free choice. No government should step in and tell anybody what to do with their Christian religious journey or their spiritual journey. No government should be a forced religion. And that's where I talk about, the manipulations of things, because governments try to do both. They try to pull people away from religion and they try to push people into religion. And that's why the separation of church and state basically said, stay out of it. Government, stay out of it. Let everybody choose for themselves what they want to believe and how their spirituality is going to go. Let everybody choose for themselves their journey. But there are a number of people that don't like it. There are a number of people, and what's happening is some people don't like other people's journeys. And that's how things are happening. If one group of people doesn't like another group of people's journey, and they don't like how fast or slow they're going, or whether or not they're believing in what they think they should believing in, or whether, they will say that person's journey is harming my children. And if they can convince everybody that person's journey is harming their children, then they can try to put a stop to that person's journey. And see, this is what I disagree with. This is what I disagree with. If that person's journey isn't directly harming you or your family, you need to leave it out of the news and just let them be on their journey. If they're committing a crime, we have laws for crimes. If a crime is committed, we have laws for that. By all means, put everybody in jail who commits a crime. Well, after a trial, after a fair trial. Innocent until proven guilty. And then after a fair trial, if they've committed a crime and it's been determined by a jury of their peers that they have, then it's jail time because they committed a crime. But what ideology they followed shouldn't matter not. If they committed a crime, they committed a crime. Now, if they commit a group crime and the whole group is involved in that and it's a cult, get the whole cult. I mean, if the cult is committing crimes, again, we have laws for crimes, but that doesn't mean we should go out and criminalize every belief that everybody has. And that's what I'm seeing on both sides, up and down, side to side. It's the ants on the ant farm. This is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing ants on the ant farm trying to manipulate people's spiritual journeys. And that is what I want to warn you about. I'm not trying to warn you about politics. I'm not trying to warn you about the other ants. I'm not trying to warn you about groups of ants. I'm trying to warn you about the manipulation on the ant farm that is going to try to stop you from being on the spiritual journey that you are. Stay on the spiritual journey that you are without fear. And that's all I really wanted to say. Stay on the spiritual journey that you are without fear. Don't let fear stop you from being on your journey. If you're not committing a crime and you're not harming anyone and you're not harming yourself, stay on your path. Don't let the ants get you. They're fire ants. Anyway, I got to get into the office. That's all I've got for today, but I hope you're all having a great day, and I will see you next time.